So it's all about competence.
Has people done this before there, Frank?
Yes, their noble classes do it all the time. That's why they're called noble classes. That's why they're called lords and ladies, and that's why they have big estates, and that's why we don't have big estates. So they
go in there with their seals and everything else, and then they just let them go through. That's
Absolutely, because they go to the best schools. They're taught this from a young age, and they don't act like slaves, do they?
Hi, Frank. How you going?
Good.
There's a lot of stuff there. You just gave us a whole elephant, and we can only take a bite at a time. But there's probably a lot there for the listeners to absorb there, and if they're up on it, they probably know. But you touched on a number of things there, and also Sanhedrin is another thing back down to biblical times. That comes from the word that you mentioned before, which is what we would describe as a court nowadays. But back on another point that you were sort of bringing up, that we are dead because we're entities and we're basically are corporations, and corporation comes from the word corpse and oration, dead speaking. So we're the walking and speaking dead in their eyes, and all we are is basically a money making machine, because they tax us left, right, and centre. We all know that Australians, something like 68% of our income goes to tax in various forms. So
well, exactly. If I can just give a quick example, Mr. Anderson, in 1837, the UK Parliament passed an act called the Wills Act, which is the first time that we see wills now being centrally administered away from notaries. And in that act, there was a very small but a crucial piece of procedure. For the first time in history, if an act was not recorded in the manor rolls, so the rolls of the rolls of the council or the rolls of the system, then it was considered probate. In other words, I could have a will that has been notarized. I could have a will that has got all the witnesses you like, but unless it is recorded and notice given of the recording of the will, then it is considered intestate. So how many people think that they have a valid will, that their will exists and the system recognises they have a will? Millions.
And it's been hidden from everyone, basically, because
that's why
that legislations.
Exactly. That's why almost every single person dies and their will is contested, because they haven't recorded it. And one more thing. The will is created for what's called your testamentary estate, the state that when you die. But the system won't tell you that you also have a life estate. That's created from that Sesta KV trust I mentioned. So unless you actually give notice of a will in action today, the courts can use probate law to pretty much charge your estate whatever you like. So yeah, I'm sorry it's so much information, but
you got it. You pretty well simplified it with about the seal and that you're not dead. But saying that in a magistrate's court, do you think the judge would know all this as well? Well, he'd probably flip out.
Well, look, a magistrate's court is believe it or not, a magistrate's court is more difficult than a Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Because when you go to a magistrate's court, the magistrate gets his power from the clerk of the town or the council, and under the council structures of 1871, when the council was created, you were placed into what's called a ward. You've probably heard this word ward before.
Yep.
The word ward is used in mental hospitals and hospitals, which is a military structure.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence. You are considered an outpatient of a mental asylum, and you are a registered lunatic from 1871 onwards. And under a magistrate's court, the magistrate, through the town clerk, through the council clerk, has the power over the poor and the mentally ill. Now, if your passport says P, that means you have Buckley's chance. You have no chance under a magistrate's court unless you have perfected your position as the general executor of your own estate. You have zero chance.
You're saying like your passport number, you mean? P?
No, your passport has the letter P on it.
Oh, okay, just the letter P by itself.
That means, well, you'll see it. It's on your passport. That means that the government of Australia, which is a registered corporation, Commonwealth of Australia, with the US SEC, they've completely tossed out the Constitution. You don't live under a Constitution. Under that corporation, you are a registered pauper, which means you have no rights. And the only thing they give you is the appearance of freedom, but you are a pauper. And under that, the magistrate has absolute, total control over you, complete control. It's why believe it or not, the clerk of the magistrate's court already deems you guilty. They've already prepared the paperwork before you even enter. You've got to understand that. The clerk doesn't do all that paperwork in 10 minutes. It's all done.
So it's all, it's all fixed.
Of course it is.
Fixed rates before you get in there. Damn it.
Of course it is.
Bastards.
You're already guilty. It's already done the day before. It's already printed off the computer.
Yeah.
You're already guilty. Of course you are.
That's why it's called procedure, Jack. That's why it's called procedure. They're enforcing policies and procedures. There's no law involved in any of this stuff.
Unless I claim my seal and my own estate and my own, general executor of
General executor of your own estate. You've got to, number one, give notice of the recording and the existence of a will. You don't need to show them the will. They have no right to see your will. None. But you've got to, number one, record the existence of your will. Give notice. Number two, and that means there is a law for your estate. Number two, there's got to be the appointment of a general executor. The general executor is the government of the estate. They can't...
Hello? All right, we've lost connection there. We're going to go into a song. We'll be back with Frank Collins just after this.
James Brown, Mother Popcorn, Part 1. You listen to Workers Radio on 88.9 FM. It's 25 minutes to 9 o'clock.
We've got Franco Collins on air here with us live. He's got the website's one/heaven.org. We've just been talking about law. Hopefully we haven't been boggled. I think it'd be great for you people out there, you workers, just sitting there going to work today for the your corporation yourself, not realising that you're dead if you go into a court, which sounds crazy. Frank, Mr. Anderson, you got some questions for Frank just before we'll go for another 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're probably going to go off on another tangent, Frank, but in terms of all this sort of stuff, I mean, I dropped a lot of the honour, dishonour stuff a few years back, and then someone put me onto your site and your audios about a year ago, and I had to listen to it, and it all makes a bit of sense, but and you make some admissions about your background and where you came from, which I sort of listened to from the last interview you were on a few weeks ago. But what makes you so right, and what makes what you're presenting here the final remedy? Because a lot of people have been searching to try and get out of the system, and the Matrix has got a lot of tentacles. Yep. The old Nebuchadnezzar's hurtling down there, and all these sentinels are all around us, and Nebuchadnezzar can fire off these little shots, and they'll disperse for a bit, but the sentinels keep coming back. They knock on your door, they ring at 6:30 in the morning, as we heard before with Michael or one of these guys saying, they're ringing you at 6 o'clock at night on a Sunday and knocking on your door on the weekends.
Well, they're doing that because the bridge trolls get enjoyment out of torturing people, and they also do it because we haven't actually made steps to tell the system who we are and continue to be the belligerent defendant, which is our only remedy. Look, I don't claim, Mr. Anderson, I claim for anyone to be the sole source of knowledge or right. In fact, UCADIA is not about being right. It's actually about a model. The idea is this. Their system is based on occult. So you end up having to read an 800-page book to find one key. Well, I don't have time to do that. I mean, I liked Harry Potter as a movie, but God, I would hate to live my life like Harry Potter. I mean, endless clues, endless journeys. I'm sick of that. Give me the meat and let me decide.
Meat and potatoes.
Yeah, give me the meat and let me decide. And that's all UCADIA is about. I am not here to convince anyone. In fact, what a waste of time, waste my energy. I don't want to tell anyone anything as far as what they should or shouldn't do. And that's why I say to people when they say, come on, debate me, I say I don't have time. I really don't have time. You either find it interesting and useful and then go and be competent, and that's the key word, competent, and go and decide, or you don't.
A lot of people get in, and I've had people with the constitutionalists and stuff like that, and some people go into court half baked. Like you said, you got to be competent, and you got to believe in yourself. And I know a lot of people who get in trouble going into court doing this sort of stuff. So you got to research it yourself, don't you?
Well, this is again. Look, it not only is it me not claiming to be the sole source of knowledge, but the worst thing anyone can ever do is half commit.
Yeah.
So pop their head up and say, I'm not going to live like a slave anymore. Yes, I'm not a slave. I'm not dead. Well, no, I've got second thoughts. Well, if you do that, the system will absolutely crush you. It will crush you.
Throw the book at you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah, and, no, just going back on the maritime law, I guess, all that sort of stuff too. The Holy See being the Vatican, that's the label given to the Vatican.
Yep.
And it all ties into the Admiralty law created, way back when, with the Romans and the coming out of the Roman occupation. I believe we're still in modern Rome now. It's just, people think Rome fell, but Rome never fell.
Well, exactly. I mean, but again, when you go down that road, you're dealing with a system that is completely in denial. I mean, the court is ecclesiastical. The procedures are ecclesiastical. The whole thing is religious power of Rome in front of you. And people say, well, hold on a second. I'm living in a country that was founded by the Church of England. For God's sake, the Queen is a member of the Sovereign Knights of Malta. She's a Dame of the Knights of Malta, a Catholic institution. Catholic. I mean, people still get hung up. I don't know why, but people believe what they see on the History Channel. I don't know why. They go look at it and say, oh, it's on TV, it must be true.
Hypnotic.
Well, Catholic just means universal. And if most of the religions, like you look at the Russian Orthodox and they go with the Apostles' Creed and they say, we believe in, the one apostolic and Catholic church, first and foremost, straight up front. And they're basically saying we're a sect of the Catholic Church. I mean, a lot of the religions are just sects of, they're just, they're offshoots of the Catholic Church that was originally created in Rome.
Well, you've actually led to a really important point. With a short amount of time left, it gives me a chance to say this. The divine creator, call it whatever name you want. Call it nature, call it the earth, call it Gaia, call it the divine creator, call it UCADIA, call it unique collective words. I don't care, God, whatever. There is no law that said that the divine creator made you a slave. There is no law that said the divine creator put these turnips in front of you. The only person on the planet, the only being on the planet that can convince you is you. The whole thing is an illusion. It's a mind illusion.
That's right.
That's why you keep referring to it as a matrix. It is a mind illusion. And the system is predicated on one thing and one thing only. If you believe they're rubbish, they're lies, they're crap, then they will take that as consent. If you refuse to learn, they'll take that as consent. If you are happy to be ignorant, they'll treat that as consent. If you roll over, they'll treat that as consent. But at the end of the day, they have no consent whatsoever under the divine creator.
Unless you're a zombie supporter.
Unless you're a zombie supporter of the ruling elite. Exactly.
Frank, thank you for coming on Radio Skid Row. Now, you've got a workshop coming up on the 3rd of February.
Yep.
And
3rd of February.
Yep. And look, and you were talking about, and people who are listening, about General Executive, the seal that there is a remedy for all this, and you can go to this workshop, and Anastasia's got the details. We'll get in contact, but we'll put the details out there. Anastasia can give us the details for that. But thanks a lot for coming on, Frank, and hopefully we can have you back in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, look, absolute pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right, cheers, Frank.